at my campus also. And it's different than your regular courses from 2 points of view. First is that there's no grading associated with that, so we have a lot of free will in this. You are also not bound, but then at the same time, I would like only those people. I mean, only those people are going to attend it anyway who are interested in it. So right now, and the market is booming for machine learning. So I think all of you should take the best advantage of the situation. Given that there'll be no grading in this, so there's no pressure as such. But then at the end, the certificate would be given only if you make the project and do give the presentation. So that's going to happen at the end of the course. So this is one aspect. The second aspect of the course is that we have as much time as we want. So there are no we are doing it besides the regular timetable, and there are at least 60 sessions we have to do. So there'll be 30 lectures and 30 lab sessions. I mean, 30 hours of lab sessions you generally don't get in a regular semester also. So we have enough time, and we are not bound by anything. So I hope I will enjoy it definitely, and you people will also enjoy the course. Meanwhile, if you have any queries, and so you can always put it in the chat box. I've got 2 laptops working, so on another laptop I can see the query also, even though the presentation is loaded or anything else I'm sharing on the screen. So this is how we are going to do that initially. Now, as I've already told, that this course is about machine learning for non-programmers. So we are going to teach it in a way that you would not need strong programming background. Even I don't have a strong programming background, if I say. But there are some things which have happened over a period of years, like last 10-15 years, which has given a lot of freedom to non-programmers like us. I will talk about that also. So we'll be using Python language for the course. There are other alternatives also, like there is R, there is MATLAB. So I will talk about let's talk about that, why we are doing it in Python, why not in R, or why not in MATLAB. The basic, I mean, MATLAB, this is one of the reasons why machine learning has grown so much over a period of time. Uh, See, I'll give you a historical perspective initially. It's not like machine learning did not existed earlier. Even in 1960s, 1950s, these algorithms were there. But the problem with those algorithms, they were even though they were implementable, the computing was very slow. Nowadays, the kind of computers which we have in our hand, they are as good as 1990s supercomputers. So the kind of freedom which we get with the processing speeds, you are carrying high processing speed in your mobile phones nowadays. So because of this advent of or breakthroughs in the computing over a period of we can specially say after 2005, uh, the computing power has come to the common man. So now, even though the computing power is there, why did it not? This machine learning did not pick up in 2005 or 2000. It's not like that. It was not progressing, but it was expensive to work on high processing computers. One, second, the kind of software which you need, or if you have to be a very good software developer to implement these programs. Now, over a period of time, what has happened is open source languages have came up, like R, Python. There are many other which are under development, which are we don't listen to these kind of, we don't hear about these new languages, but constantly open source is the new way of doing business. So new because of the advent of these open source softwares, R, Python, it went into the hand of common men or people like us, where we need not purchase license. For MATLAB you need license, and at the same time the kind of space that they occupy on your hard disk is huge. uh, the Python and R are very flexible. Python and R are very flexible. So flexible from the point of view of packages. See, if I have to, let's say, run a certain algorithm in ML, I don't have to write code. I can get that code in open source forums. I can modify that code. It's just that I should know how to read a code. So that's what we are going to do in this course. We will equip you with how to read a code. I mean, codes are, everything is available. You just Google it and you will get what you want, whatever code you want. There are very good forums across the world. Uh, you can just find out how to solve the certain problem, and I think 1.5 hour you'll get some open source code for that. And once you get the code, you just have to modify it. You have to understand what it is, and there are pretty standard ways of representing the code. So we will get to know about that. So that's why it can be done by people like us, like mechanical engineers, or non engineers with the non-computing background, for the simple reason the codes are available online. um, Open sources are there where you can just get whatever you want to. There's a task in hand, and you just need what knowledge you need is that how this particular algorithm works, what are the advantages, disadvantages of that particular algorithm, what are the basic parameters of that algorithm. If we know that, we can get hold of the whole situation. And we can take a code from open source forum and then use that code, just modify it, customize it for the way we want it, and it can be done. So I found it pretty easy. You will definitely find it easy because I am almost double your age, and you have a better grasping power than me, definitely. So what my job would be to make you understand the algorithms. We will do most of the algorithms, we'll try to solve by hand, will for a smaller problem, and then we will give you the data associated with. We take for every algorithm we'll take a problem. We will have data associated with that, and then we will run the algorithm. And then similarly you can also do that. And then as a project, you would be selecting some database from GitHub or wherever is the suitable source. You'll get a lot of data online. So any data which interests you, we talk about that in a day or two, that how do you, what problem should you choose and all, and for the project. So the if you are attending the course, and if you are attending with mobile phone, better not waste your time. You should attend this course with a laptop and a pen and pencil in your hand. Then only it is worth. Otherwise you're just passing your time, which will not be worth at all. So what I suggest is, okay, tell me in the chat box how many of you are working from laptop. Say yes if you're working from laptop. If you're listening to this lecture from your laptop, just say yes. Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good. I can see many yeses over here. So that's good. So although the course name of the course, the handout which I've shared you is artificial intelligence and machine learning. Okay. Um to start with, I can tell you right now that artificial intelligence is a bigger umbrella, and machine learning comes under that umbrella. Now, we will come to the artificial intelligence at the end of the course. I'm not going to dive into the artificial intelligence part initially itself, because it's a bigger umbrella. The main or the core takeaway from this course is machine learning. So we will focus more on the machine learning, and at the end, I will definitely give you a primer on artificial intelligence. Now, machine learning. Before we even talk about machine learning, can you tell me what is human learning? Like, there is machine and there is human. So what is human learning? And we talk about machine learning after that. So anyone, any opinion or any thoughts from your side? What is human learning? Trial and error. Okay, Syed says trial and error. Anyone else? You can speak out or you can type, whatever the way you prefer. But I would like to observing the data, finding out a pattern, and making sense of the data. So is that human? I mean, that's is that human learning that complicated? Like you observe it, find out a pattern. Anyone else? Learning the way to understand other humans. Vineet says. Okay, Sayed saying learn with experience. So what? Okay, human. So what is learning? Let's come to uh, more core issue. What is learning? Acquiring some knowledge. Okay. So if you say acquiring knowledge, is it the capturing data, capturing the data? Oh, okay, let's even go getting some skills. Piyush is saying. So even if we let's say talk about what is data and what is knowledge, what is the difference between data and knowledge? What is difference between data and knowledge? Anyone?
Sir, knowledge,
Data and knowledge. Yeah, Aman,
sir, sir,
want to
knowledge
say?
is, sir, knowledge is more logical, sir. I mean, more conclusive, more logical. Data cannot be, data has to be scientific.
Knowledge is more conclusive.
Yes, sir, more conclusive, more logical. Data can be misleading sometimes. I mean, it can be
Okay.
complicated.
Uh, See, if I tell you that uh, India's population is this, okay, and USA's population is this, and China's population is this. So, is this data or this is knowledge? Okay. So, when this data will become knowledge, can you tell me? If most of the people, I mean, I agree with you. This is data. Uh, how is this data? Does when does this data become knowledge? Okay, so some of you are when we can use it to predict other factors, or when we, I mean, if we can make out some relations between that. If we say uh, India is more populated than USA, right? Then we say this is a knowledge. Okay, so knowledge is driven from the data. Okay, this is one thing. Now we come back to our initial talk where we were saying what is learning. Uh, Basic example we'll talk about, all of us has gone through that, is learning. We ride cycles, right? All of you, I assume that all of you know how to ride a cycle, and if you don't, then probably you should. You're still young to learn that. Later on, you'll not be able to. So when we learn cycling, is there anyone in the class who has learned the cycle the day one, like when you first time you sat on the cycle and you rode it like pro? Is it possible to do that?
It is
Can
so possible.
no? Gagan says no. Yeah, Sweetie says no. We just can't ride cycle on day one. Maybe on day two or three. So how do we learn cycling? So yeah, so Sagar is saying practice. See, what is the core essence of practice? Core essence of practice, like we do numericals in mathematics, or you do calculus problems or different. Yeah. Uh, So knowledge is representation. I mean, if your data, see what's happened, how this thing works is that how do you learn a cycle? Your in your mind actually, sort of matrices are created in your mind. Okay, matrices like you can imagine there's an Excel sheet where in the row one it will be mentioned. I did this. I pedaled I started cycling and I tried to pedal, but I fell down on the other side. I always fall down on the other side where I'm keeping the foot on the pedal. Okay. Then what do? You put one foot on the pedal and other on the ground, and you try to move along with that. So all these parameters. What are the parameters? Can you say some parameters which will govern your cycling process? What physical parameters, mechanical parameters govern the cycling process? Speed, yeah, mass, I mean, say weight, angle of inclination, three parameters. Broadly, we can say maybe your own body weight, okay, and few other parameters. If you do more research, you can find those parameters and we can list them on Excel sheet. Like in Excel sheet, we can make certain columns for each parameter, and it just that's how the robots are designed as well. If you're designing a robot which can cycle, that's what you're going to do. You're going to make a row and then columns. In columns, you're going to write the value of those parameters like force, the wind speed, and all those things. Maybe 10 different or 20 different parameters are there which will govern whether a robot or for per se, I mean, a human is able to drive the cycle, ride the cycle. So they'll be arranged in different columns, and for every trial there will be a row associated with that. So when you are cycling, actually this is how your data, the data which your sensors, your body sensors, your body sensors are your skin, your five sense organs which you have. Some of those sense organs will be used in registering those movements which you are doing on the cycling, although all that is happening very involuntarily. When you, nobody knows that I have to register it in an Excel sheet. So you keep running, I mean, as a child or at whatever age you are learning to cycle, it keeps on getting registered in the rows. Now at the end of the row, in the last column, there is there is you can say a binary variable which says yes and no, or 1 and 0. So if all those parameters are certainly are set in a certain way, you are going to, and if you find that it is successful set of parameters, one will be marked over there, a kind of a binary indication. So one will be marked over there, and if you are trying to fall, 0 will be marked. So there is an output. Okay, so we say that is your labeled data. Labeled means you are labeling the data by success or not success, or falling down or not falling down, or different ways. So you at the end of that all Excel sheet in your mind, you're marking that. So your learning is happening. Now how do you, I mean, data got registered, but then how does the mind, or how does your body processes that with the help of neurons which are there in the body? So I'm not going to talk about the artificial neural network today, but then I'm talking about the genesis from where the machine learning came, or the learning word comes. Learning comes because that's how we learn it. There is an algorithm, that is a neural network. It is a very simple algorithm which is embedded by the nature in your body, or in every living thing's body. Neural network. So these neural networks, they would know output. They would want to know what is the output. So output is being marked as I'm falling down the cycle, or I'm not falling down the cycle. So once you know the output, that's how your neural network works. So from this is the genesis of your learning. So that's now when that's human learning. That is basic. That is what's happening around the world. Every living thing is going through that. But then when we try to simulate that concept, or we try to impose that concept on the non-living things, then that becomes machine learning. Okay, so everything, all these algorithms, somewhere or the other, the learning part is the core, where you need data. So what are the prerequisites? Prerequisite is I need the data. I need an algorithm. I need an algorithm to churn that data. Now, and there'll be many parameters which I should be knowing, that what are the parameters of my problem. I should be knowing what are the ways in which Now, one thing that's great about machine learning, or you can say, is it now? I'll ask a question: is human learning perfect? Is human learning perfect? Around the world, I mean, in cricket, let's say, which is the best person, which is the best cricketer in the world which can hit the wickets? And I mean, when we used to be passionate about cricket, that time it was Jonty Rhodes. Now, who's the best wicket hitting cricket player in today's environment? Ravindra Jadeja. Okay, I see a lot of consensus on this. Anyone else? Or everyone agrees with Ravindra Jadeja is the best? Ritik says Duplessis. Okay. Anyone else? So only two players you think are the best in hitting the wickets? Okay. So I get okay. I assume they are the best, as whatever you say. So have they never missed the wickets? I'm sure they must be practicing a lot. So have they never missed the wickets? They have missed the wickets. So that we can say that learning is never perfect. You just can't get 100%. It's just not possible. Maybe now, what is the meaning of 100%? If I do that particular activity infinite times, they'll be all the time they'll be hitting. Then only it will be 100%. So in a way, we can say that it's just not possible for a human learning to be 100%. Similarly, these machine learning algorithms are never 100% correct. Okay, so the machine learning does not intend to predict with 100% accuracy. There is no intention of doing that. If it is doing that, there is something seriously wrong with the algorithm. So you just can't do that. There is something really serious with problem. I mean, if you're getting accuracy of anything above 96, 97%, people start getting scared about it, that there is something wrong with my algorithm. So yeah, we talk about machine learning now. I'll be sharing my screen. So now definition and all that part, I'll come to that later. Okay. The very first example, let's understand what does machine learning do? Or I think we are more interested in application rather than the theoretical part. We will definitely come to theory, and that's what we'll be doing in 1 hours each. But let's try to understand what is this machine learning. What is the motivation for any? You see this data in front of you. Can anyone say what this data is telling? Can anyone tell what is this data all about? Okay, Piyush says it is regarding a golf game. Good, Piyush.
Sir, weather of the day has been noted. Sir,
Yes, Aman.
sir, weather दिखा रहा है मतलब नीचे वाले
Okay.
sunny over
Anyone else?
humidity.
Sagar says all factors affecting a golf game. So, can we say these as the parameters? Okay, or features? In the terms of machine learning, we would name these parameters like uh, outlook, humidity, and windy. These are the features of the external environment around golf. Whether to play not based on given parameters. Syed says whether I should play golf based on these parameters or not. Okay, so outlook. What is outlook? Outlook is how does the weather look like outside? So sunny, overcast, or rain. And temperature is another feature. Humidity is another feature, and wind is another feature. So we see this data is given over here. We will use this data later. for a particular algorithm. We will come to this data, but right now, what we can use a certain machine learning algorithm. This algorithm would need prior data. Now, what are the basic characteristics of this data? I mean, what are the main things in this data? We can say there are features. Is it labeled or not labeled? Can you tell me? Is it labeled data or unlabeled data? I did tell you what is labeled. Sagar is saying it is a labeled data. Why do you think, Sagar, it is a labeled data? Why is it a labeled data? Described above the parameters. The output is given. Very good, Sayed. Actually, the output means with this, okay, the features are outlook, temperature, humidity, and windy. Okay, so they can take several values. Outlook can take 3 values. Temperature can take values on a continuous scale. Humidity can take values on a continuous scale. Windy can take only binary values, 1 and 0, true and false. And the last one is saying play, don't play, right? So again, that is called labeling. So you need, in order to collect the data, you need consulting experts who would tell you that, okay, sunny is there, temperature is 85, humidity is on 85% again, and whether it is windy or not, it's again true and false. So based on that, the consultant is going to tell whether you should play or not. Like the consultant in this case would be golf players. So you definitely need some human intervention. It's not like from scratch it is just going to work on its own. You need human intervention here, some consultants, or you can say expert database. Okay, and watching players do that, whether they how do the consultants know whether it is a good or not? They watch the players, or they themselves have been players. And you need some meteorological data to do this. So you can see the data is coming from several sources. Okay, now why machine, I mean, another thing which we can take from here is why machine learning is is being talked with artificial intelligence, and is being talked with industry 4.0, and is being talked with internet of things, and all these things are coming together. Let me make it much simpler for you. See, let's say there is a machine, okay, and we are collecting data on some parameter. Let's say it's your car. So we are collecting data on your car. There are several sensors on the car. There is a brake, or you can say accelerometer, which is registering that. There is a camera which is taking pictures and analyzing the videos. There is ambience you are registering in that, where the vehicles are moving and all, distance between the vehicles and all. So proximeters are there. So all these sensors together are continuously sending the data. Okay, now if this thing and you want to make an autonomous car. Okay, so autonomous basically means that this car is going to drive on its own, and you probably can just relax. Like, I mean, you by now everyone would have seen Teslas around the world. At least you would have seen the videos of Tesla. So it is all integrated with the sensors, and the sensors are strewn all around the car, and each sensor is throwing data. I mean, pushing data, streaming data continuously every second. Huge amount of data is getting collected, and the data goes in GBs and all, and is going to the cloud. Because where would you store data of a car? I mean, this car is running right now. Where would you store the data? So you can't just have a CPU located in the car, a big CPU, or a set of hard disks where the data will be pushed. So this all data is going in the cloud, okay, through internet. So your internet, your So here comes the Internet of Things. Your data is going to the cloud. Now, what do you do with the data? Data is still data. It's still not knowledge. So this data is continuously getting analyzed. Okay. So who is doing that analysis? There may be uh, machine learning algorithms. There may be AI based algorithms. Now, AI based algorithms are more goal oriented. I would not talk about that right now. They work on higher form of learning, not machine learning. They use the machine learning. I mean, machine learning algorithms could be supplementing it, but not totally based on machine learning. The autonomous vehicle just can't be developed simply based on machine learning. You would need higher forms of algorithms uh, where a car can act as a agent and can talk to or can negotiate with the surroundings. Okay, then it becomes an artificial intelligence. So we would definitely talk about it later. Now I come back to the big data. Where is this big data coming into picture? Now this data which is being pushed or being streamed in the cloud, the cloud the storage which is happening at the cloud is a huge set of data. Now we can call it as a big data only when this data is getting pushed to another server where the analysis of the data is taking place. Now, in order to do the analysis of data, it goes in the packets. See, if you give all the 20 GBs of data or 50 GBs or 1 terabyte of the data to one processor only, your car will get and will not be able to negotiate the dangerous turns and all. It will definitely it is very much prone to accident, your car. So what do they do is they distribute the data with the help of big data and big data technology. They break the data into several components and they do parallel processing on different servers. And the parallel processing is much easier for data packets. So छोटा छोटा उसको break कर देते हैं. 1 terabyte को आप उसको 10 GB के पैकेट्स में आप प्रोसेस करते हैं एंड देन वो सारे जो एल्गोरिदम्स हैं वो रन करके अपना एक कंसेंसस बनाते हैं कि ओके आई वुड से टेक राइट टर्न और आई वुड से नेगोशिएट द ओवरटेक, वेदर आई हैव टू ओवरटेक, आगे वाली कार को ओवरटेक करना है नहीं करना, आपको कितने सेकंड्स का होता है, आई मीन a span of 5 to 6 seconds you have to take that decision whether to overtake or not. So the kind of data which is already being streamed, उसको क्या करता है बिग डेटा छोटे छोटे पार्ट्स में ब्रेक कर देता है और वो अलग अलग कंप्यूटर में भेजता है. वहां पे वो मशीन लर्निंग सेम एल्गोरिदम चल रहा होता है, उनके रिजल्ट्स हो सकता है अलग अलग आए. आउट ऑफ 20 if let's say 15 says yes you should overtake the car जो आगे है, then जो मेजोरिटी होती है या whatever way of breaking the tie is there, they do that, or whatever way of decision making is there. So there वहां पे machine learning का use होता है. So that all these technologies they come under industry 4.0 where data is captured from the surrounding objects and then it goes to the cloud, and from cloud it is broke to Hadoop or whatever. There are again big data technologies. They break the data into several smaller parts and then they analyze it and then combine the result again, and that too has to happen in those span of 5 seconds. I hope you get that. So that's why we say that with quantum computing the kind of processing will be even faster. So the breakthroughs in artificial intelligence will become even more and more prevalent. It's not that we are still struggling with I mean, you can understand that why it is so difficult to have a self-driving car because of the mishaps which could happen. It is still not perfect. I mean, it will never be perfect. But then if computing gets faster, you can resolve to you can come to a resolution or consensus at a very faster pace. Okay. So now this is the introductory part of machine learning. You can see over here that I've shown you one table golf ka hai. Now we come to the next slide. where what is happening, how do they do that? So वो क्या करेगा, some algorithm, I'm not naming the algorithm right now, but that algorithm will tell you when to play golf. So उसमें क्या होगा, सबसे पहले एक मॉडल क्रिएट करेगा वो. So how the model will be created? See over here you can see, what can you observe from this figure? Anyone? आप ये फिगर में से क्या ऑब्जर्व कर सकते हैं? This figure which you see over here, what can you observe? Anyone? I mean, besides 5 6 people, I would like anyone else to answer. I just would like to see if you are awake or not. Okay, let me read the chat now. So, a possibility of playing decision tree. Okay, Syed, I think Syed, can you open your mic?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you have already done this course, right?
Yeah, I had done a course once, but that was basics in machine learning.
Okay, that's why you know it is a decision tree. Okay, but
Yes.
anyway, for other people, you need not worry about this decision tree. What is decision tree and all? आप बताइए है क्या ये? Predicting possibility, conditions deciding whether to play or not, possibilities. Okay, now इसमें आप अगर ये बनाना पड़े आपको कि मान लीजिए आपको ये इस तरीके का फिगर बनाना है, आपने कभी देखा नहीं है ये फिगर, ओके, बट यू नो के ये पैरामीटर्स हैं, आउटलुक है, टेम्परेचर है, ह्यूमिडिटी है, विंडी है. तो अगर आप इफ यू हैव टू मेक अ सीक्वेंस लाइक दिस, व्हाट प्रॉब्लम वुड यू फेस? फ्लो चार्ट विद सम कंडीशंस, प्रतीक इज सेइंग. सो इसको आप बनाएंगे कैसे? इसमें इसमें आपको क्या लगता है कि डिसीजन क्या होना चाहिए, क्या होगा? Anyone? Which parameter is effective, more effective? Sayed, you can also answer. It's not like you cannot answer. Although you have done it, but you can also pitch in your ideas. So, overcast, humidity, windy. मैंने इसको ऊपर ऊपर क्यों नहीं लिख दिया है ह्यूमिडिटी को? आउटलुक सबसे ऊपर क्यों है? Getting it? Are you understanding? सबसे ऊपर आउटलुक क्यों है? देयर आर 4 डिफरेंट पैरामीटर्स, है ना, 4 फीचर्स हैं. ऊपर है, वहां पे आउटलुक है, टेम्परेचर है, ह्यूमिडिटी है, विंडी है. तो मैंने विंडी क्यों नहीं लिख दिया सबसे ऊपर, पहले मैंने आउटलुक क्यों लिखा है? सो दिस इज व्हाट इज चैलेंजिंग, और दिस इज व्हाट द एल्गोरिथम विल डू. एल्गोरिथम बताएगा कि आपको ऊपर क्या लिखना चाहिए, फिर उसके बाद क्या आना चाहिए, फिर उसके बाद क्या आना चाहिए, एंड इट विल गिव प्रोबेबिलिटीज के किस प्रोबेबिलिटी से क्या आप ले सकते हैं. अगर अगर ह्यूमिडिटी 75 से ऊपर है तो डोंट प्ले. ओके, सो दिस इज अ डिसीजन ट्री, as Sayyed had said earlier. So there are so many sub conditions associated with that. तो ये प्रॉब्लम तो 4 पैरामीटर की है, राइट, बट द प्रॉब्लम, अगर आपको लेट से अभी एग्जाम होने थे, ठीक है, आपको ओपन चॉइस दी थी कि ठीक है आप जो एग्जाम देना चाहते हैं वो एग्जाम दें, जो है ना एग्जाम देना चाहते हैं वो एग्जाम नहीं दे. तो आपको क्या लगता है कि क्या क्या पैरामीटर्स होंगे? कैन यू राइट द पैरामीटर्स व्हिच विल हेल्प यू इन डिसाइडिंग वेदर टू गिव एग्जाम और नॉट? कैन यू राइट दोस पैरामीटर्स? You can speak out whatever the medium you prefer. Preparation, date of examination, or how much time do you have, offline, online, gap. इसमें I got muted on my. I don't know what's happening. I've been observing it. Kabhi bhi, I think I'm audible now. Say yes. Yeah. So this thing is happening for a while. Uh, this problem with Google, or I don't know. Uh, After some period of time, I get muted on my own. So anyway, so अगर मान लीजिए आपके पास 700 स्टूडेंट्स का डेटा आ जाता है कि जिसने दिया है और जिसने नहीं दिया है एग्जाम on those parameters, and then as a 701 student you can find out whether I should give the exam or not. You just and you will have the estimated error value also कि कितना erroneous है मेरा जो algorithm है, and then I can just put in के ये parameter मेरे हैं, and then shall I give the exam or not. It will tell you go and give the exam or don't give the exam. मजा आएगा ना, right? So this is I mean that should be some motivation for you. So what I would suggest is during the course, if you are going to select any any data, as much if it's possible, do some survey in your peer group. Take out a problem of your own only. Do survey, collect the data of 100 students which are participating, or even more people in the institute if you can get data from, and take some personal problem or take some problem which interests you, and then do apply machine learning algorithms on that. So that will give you a kind of pleasure which you'll probably you get a different kind of a high. Okay, so now let's try to understand this definition. It's a branch of artificial intelligence, as I've told. So machine learning is mostly concerned with design and development of algorithms and techniques that allows computers to learn. Now in this sentence, there are many things which we have already talked about. We have talked about algorithms. You know the meaning, all of you know the meaning of algorithms, I assume that. And design and development. So it's not always designing. Probably it may, if you're not a hardcore programmer, probably you would not be designing the ML codes, but developing would be there because let's say some already existing code is there, and now you want to associate graphs also with the output, and so that you can do some more analysis. So that is development. So the development part you can do, you will be able to do, all of you. And then the major focus of ML research is to extract information from data automatically. So given that the data is already there, a good amount of data is there in front of you, so we are going to extract information out of that, knowledge out of that, by computational and statistical methods. So see, statistics is generally, the word statistics we generally use when we have a lot of data, and we try to use concepts of standard deviation or probability or distribution of the data. What is the pattern in the data? If we talk about that, then the statistics comes into play. By the way, how many of you have done any course on statistics lately? How many of you know normal distribution? Right? Yes, in the chat box. If you know what is normal distribution. So only 2 people have said 4. Okay, I'm also sending the attendance sheet for this session. I'm just mailing you. I'm just giving a link for the attendance sheet. Rather, I'll just. I did not get email IDs of all the students. Probably. How do we do that? Anyway, for the students whose email ID I'm already. Yes, Sagar.
For the first time, you can get everyone to fill a Google form so that you get the email IDs of each and every student.
Okay, so Sagar, can you do that for me?
So क्या डालना है उसमें मतलब attendance के लिए?
You're less audible, but I'm assuming that you agree with me that you are taking the attendance. Okay, so just circulate a form in the Excel sheet. So they'll be writing their email IDs also and attendance for today. So Yeah. So I'll come back to my slide while the attendance will be taken by Sagar. So now we come to the extraction part. So extract information from data automatically. So like in the golf example, what information was extracted from the data? Can anyone tell what information was extracted from the data? Yeah, we can say whether play or not. So the information was, the data was there, but the last column, that is play and don't play, that is the information which was extracted, and that was further used on the remaining. So let's say if I've got 1000 data points, I will use 800 data points to tune my algorithm. उसको हम algorithm बनाएंगे, उसकी checking करेंगे, and for rest 200 I will check whether it is working properly or not. Okay. So that's called learning data set and the training data set. There is also another one, validation or not, but we talk about right now, we only talk about testing and training data set. So training के लिए ज़्यादा data use होता है, और testing के लिए, I mean generally the ratio is 80:20. 80% of the data you use for testing or training. ट्रेन करने के लिए, जैसे आप साइकिल चलाते हैं तो आप साइकिल चलाने के लिए लेट्स से आपने साइकिल चलाना सीख लिया है स्ट्रेट रोड्स पे, वेल लेवल्ड रोड्स पे आपने साइकिल चलाना सीख लिया है. अब आप जाते हैं कि मैं इसको डिचेस वाली रोड पे जहाँ पे बहुत गड्ढे हैं एंड ऑल, नॉट सो स्मूथ रोड, वहां पे चला सकता हूँ कि नहीं साइकिल को. तो वो आप टेस्टिंग कर रहे हैं, ट्रेनिंग कर रहे हैं. अब आपने अपने अराउंड घर के आसपास आपने सीख लिया है, बट आप ट्रैफिक में अगर आप उसको लेके जाते हैं तो वो आपका टेस्टिंग होता है डेटा का. सिमिलरली ओके. सो इसमें मोस्टली डेटा माइनिंग एंड स्टैटिस्टिक्स. सो डेटा माइनिंग इज अ कंसेप्ट व्हिच मींस दैट अगर मेरे पास 200 पैरामीटर्स हैं, ओके, अगर आपकी लाइफ देखी जाए, ओके, वेदर इफ यू वांट टू एस्टिमेट दैट मेरा सीजीपीए कितना आएगा, ओके, सो आपके सीजीपीए के पैरामीटर्स क्या क्या होंगे बता सकते हैं आप? What parameters will be there of CGPA? आप लिख के दीजिए. CGPA के क्या क्या पैरामीटर्स होंगे या फीचर्स होंगे? मार्क्स, ओनली मार्क्स, क्रेडिट्स, नो, आई मीन इंटरनल असेसमेंट, relative marks, attendance, yes, attendance, marks, attendance, only 2 right now. What else? Assignments, what labs, okay, performance of others, okay, peer group performance, good, quizzes, okay. और बताइए, बस यही चीज गवर्न करती है. आप कितने घंटे पढ़ रहे हैं ये नहीं करता है. मार्क्स गवर्न, क्रेडिट ऑफ सब्जेक्ट अफेक्ट्स, डिसिप्लिन, यस, डिसिप्लिन and efforts, yes, your intelligence, your IQ, you can say, yeah, consistency, good, and extracurricular activities no one has written. Environment, I mean environment is a very broad one. You have to break down into again 10-15 different parameters. So what I assume right now is physical and mental health, good, determination, projects. I mean, now if I give you if I tell you there are about 150 to 200 parameters that govern what CGPA you get, you would not be surprised with that. I think not. So अब in all 150 if I write, उसमें से एक पैरामीटर ये भी है कि whether you are going to classes by walking or you are going to classes by scooting. तो ये एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पैरामीटर होगा या नहीं होगा, बताइए. Syed says yes, Krishna says no, Madhav says yes, Chelsea says yes, Sagar says yes, Vineet says no, Nitin says yes, Prateek says no, but on larger scale yes. Yes and no दोनों कर दिया प्रतीक ने. Prateek, not that important. So what we see for the first time, what we are looking at is a contradiction कि भाई कुछ लोग बोल रहे हैं कि important है, कुछ लोग बोल रहे हैं important नहीं है. तो यही होता है डेटा माइनिंग का मतलब क्या होता है कि अब इसमें कौन सा आपको पैरामीटर लेना चाहिए, कौन सा नहीं लेना चाहिए, ये एक तरीके की माइनिंग है। आप उसमें से अब आपको इस जस्ट माइनिंग क्या है, आप सोना निकाल के लाते हैं गोल्ड माइन में से, ओके, और सो और यू मेटल्स यू एक्सट्रैक्ट फ्रॉम द माइंस। सो दैट्स व्हाट द प्रॉब्लम इज कि जब आप डेटा कलेक्ट करते हैं ना, आपके पास सेंसर्स आपने 50 जगह लगा रखे हैं, वो इतना डेटा देंगे आपको, इतने अलग अलग पैरामीटर पे डेटा देंगे, आपको समझ नहीं आएगा। मैं आपको एक दिखाता हूँ डेटा सेट कि करना क्या है इस डेटा का। सो आई विल शो यू वन डेटा सेट। Just a second, just give me some time.
Sir, I've shared the link in the chat box.
Yeah, you have again. I think attendance link is already been shared in the chat box. Just have a look at that. So I'm sharing, my screen where you will see the data set where now you see this data. We see many Excel sheets are there. Okay, in this I've taken this data from Kaggle. So see so many Excel sheet, and let me open one Excel sheet and show you something. Now you see this kind of data has been collected: motor torque, controller position, actuator position, film. It is about an assembly line where some cutter is there, and you see this data. All these are parameters of that data. And if we see page down, how many rows are there? You will be surprised. So a single day data is somewhat like this, where we have around 2000 rows. Okay, 2000 units have been, and I have this data of how many? I have 519 Excel sheets with around 2000 data points in each Excel sheet. How many data points are there? Can anyone tell? 519 Excel sheets with 2000 points in each data sheet. Can you see this? Yeah. So this data has been collected from different sensors. So about 1 million data points are there. So ये तो ठीक है, डेटा पॉइंट्स 1 मिलियन है, बट इसमें से यूजफुल डेटा निकालना इज अ बिग ह्यूमंगस टास्क. सो डेटा माइनिंग लिखा है यहाँ पे, आपको गोल्ड निकाल के लाना है इसमें. ओके, and then statistics, because there is a lot of data, and if wherever there is a lot of data, any analysis would require a lot of statistics. Okay, so now we'll conclude with the theory session and we start with the practical session. Amit, you are there?
Yes,
Let me
sir.
introduce. Amit Patil is my scholar, a PhD scholar, and is working in machine learning area only. He's been applying several algorithms in his own practice. So he and me both, I'll be there during the lecture also, but then he and me both, we are going to take these sessions where we will equip you with handling Python. And by the end of the course, you will be confident to, if a Python code is there in front of you, you will be able to understand it. You will be able to run an algorithm on your own. So this is with that what will be out outcome of this course. So we are starting from the scratch, where we will tell you how to install and how we will work. And there are various platforms on which you can work in Python. You can work in Spider, you can work in Jupyter, you can work in PyCharm. There are many other ways. So we will take the most comfortable one, which suits everyone. And Amit, you can take from here on.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So how many of you have installed Anaconda? So in the Excel sheet which he has just shared, Sagar has shared, I'm also including one column where you can indicate. Sagar, can you indicate one column where they say that they have installed Anaconda or not? So you can post your questions in WhatsApp group, or you can post your questions in this chat box. Most of the times I will be able to handle the or Amit will be able to handle the queries in the WhatsApp group and the Google form, because Amit, you are already taking this screen, so you will not be able to see the chats which are coming to you. So you can better give in WhatsApp, and I will try to go through your chats. So you can post your queries in the WhatsApp group. And Sagar, please add Amit also in that. I'm sending you his phone number. So please add Amit also in that group. Amit, you can start.
Okay, sir. Okay. So, quick response from you guys. How many of you have installed the Python or Jupyter Notebook? Just say yes. Okay, so whoever are writing yes, they have installed Jupyter also. Yes, you can work on PyCharm too. Both are IDs, so there won't be any difference. But okay, so I guess we can do a quick review. Okay, so whoever have installed Python, so it's fine, and we'll be working on Jupyter Notebook. That's an IDE. That's an environment. You can see a better visualized screen before you, on which you can work easily, and right. So that's a comfortable screen to you than this one. This is the plain Python 3.8.7 screen on which you will be working, right? So better than that, we'll be having, right? I can show you one.
Amit, if they have installed Anaconda, you can tell them how to
Yes, sir.
start
Yes, sir.
Jupyter from there.
Yes, sir. So this is the Jupyter screen, right? So you'll be having much more sorted out view on the code and on your output, right? So just we have to compare these two screens. This is your input and this is your output, right? So it will get some messed up when you are writing some longer codes and machine learning algorithms, right? So for that, will be using Jupyter Notebook. So first you have to install, for working on Jupyter Notebook, you first have to install the Python, right? So basic Python. So that you can download from python.org. You can go to Windows on downloads folder, and then you can install the as per your system, whether it is 32-bit or 64-bit. So here one embedded, I'll suggest that don't go for the latest version of the Python, because there might be some, you see the beta, it will be a beta version, so there will be some safety issues and some limitations for that. So go for the second latest version, right? So that will be 3.8.8 something or 8.9. So you can download it from here, right? Windows embedded package, 64-bit if your system is 64-bit, and 34-bit if you are working on that, right? Once it gets downloaded, you'll see similar kind of thing, right? So I can share the link. Once you download it, you'll for installing, you will get this window. So while installing the Python basic, so you have to do one thing, that check on this add Python 3.7 to path, right? Yours will be Python 3.8 to path, because what will happen if you just miss out on this, then there will be some miscommunication between the system and the your software, right? So you have just make sure that you click on this, check on the add Python to your path, and then go on to and don't go for customized installation, go for install now. That is whatever the recommended options are there. So there won't be any trouble. You can just follow on. Once it get downloaded, just click on the installation package and it will start installing, right? So check on this, make sure that you check on this, right? Okay, so this was for installing the Python. Then once it gets installed, you can go move on to Jupyter Notebook. For Jupyter Notebook, you just have to write one code into your CMD, right? Command prompt. So so go to your search and then type CMD. So this command prompt will open. In it, you have to type so Python -m pip install Jupyter. I have already installed it in my system, so I won't enter it, but you have to type this code. Is it visible, right? Hello?
Yes, Amit, it is visible.
Yes, okay. So just select this code, Python -m, then pip install and Jupyter, and after that enter. It will start installing. Make sure that internet connectivity is there in your system, right? So it will start getting installed automatically, right? So this is the thing here. So once that is done, it will automatically install the whole Jupyter Notebook thing, and at last you'll see this type of thing, right? So once you get the C colon users, your username, whatever your system username is, and then this greater than less than sign. Okay, once it is there, you have to type Jupyter Notebook, right? So whenever after installing this, if no other red line codes are there, then it means that it has been successfully installed. So once you see this line on your command prompt, it means that you have successfully installed the Jupyter Notebook. Okay, now once it is installed, you need to start working or call Jupyter Notebook from your system, right? So for launching the Jupyter Notebook, you have to type in here, say C users, whatever your username is, and then Jupyter Notebook. So that will pop up one window. Okay, so it will automatically get started in your Chrome version, right? Chrome user, Internet Explorer, or whatever. Okay, so some similar kind of screen will be there, right, in your Jupyter notebook. Okay, up till this, anyone has any doubts, or was I too fast? Hello, anyone?
I think you give your comments here if you are okay. It's not compulsory to use Jupyter, right? No,
Yes,
you
it
can
is.
use anything, but we will be taking in Jupyter only.
uh, Whoever has installed the Anaconda, then there will be one option to launch Jupyter, right? So you don't need to install that. There will be option for launching the Jupyter, right? Okay, so pace is all right, so no problem there. So it is not compulsory that you do it in Jupyter, but as the sessions go on, you will feel that it's a better. Okay, it's for your convenience. So there are other alternatives also. If you have worked on different types of IDs, right? PyCharm is there, then Spider is there. You can work on Google Colab too. Okay, so if you are familiar with that, you can go there and use that, because the codes will be same. There will be some technical, uh, you can say, mismatch, okay, regarding the libraries and all, but otherwise there will be no other issue, right? So you can use Jupyter notebook, you can use PyCharm, or Spider, or Google Colab, right? Okay. Okay, then. So first I'll start with some basic idle shell. That is, if you don't install the Jupyter and all, just if you have installed the Python, then search here in your Windows screen. You can see that in Python folder there will be idle, right? It is the shell in which you will be typing your codes and running the codes, right? So select on this idle. Okay, if you install it. So this is the first basic introductory lecture. So we won't be running anything complex or in detail, just simple commands. Okay, and those of you who have not installed the Python or Jupyter, make sure that you do it for yesterday, right? For tomorrow, whenever you come tomorrow. So, okay. So how we start coding is that first you have to okay, we'll see that it can work as basic calculator too, right? So if you have to do 3 plus 5, it will give you 8. Then if you have to write your name, it will give you a name. So there will be some before starting this, I want to share a few details about the data sets, data types, right? So you see that in here that whenever I have written the digits, right? So it has written me only digits, and when I have written in inverted commas, so that is there with inverted commas, right? Single inverted commas. So there are few data types, 3 or 4. You can see that. If you have seen this C plus coding thing in your 11th 12th, then you might recall that there are numeric type of data, string type of data, character type of data, right? So name, whenever you write something in inverted commas, so that will be your uh, string or character type of data, and otherwise if there are plain numbers, then that will be your numerics, digits, right? Numeric type of data. So this is the basic difference. Okay. In file, those of you who want to just those of you who just want to run this code without what you can say, without Jupyter or PyCharm, you can do it from here also. So say 2 plus 3 and just save this file, okay, on your desktop. Now, once you have written few scripts here, okay, I will start with just one code. Okay, once you have written a few lines of codes, for now there is only one single line, but in future we'll be working on with longer codes, 10 to 15 lines or something. So then you have to write it in a script. This will be your script whenever you start with a new file. This will be a kind of script which will run fully, right? When you work in shell, right, in here. So if you type just one line of code, then that part will run and it will be shown in below, right? But what will happen in this case, if you write a longer code, and then run from here, it will show you the output as a combined set of values, right? So this is the basic difference. So we'll see something in detail after some time, I guess 1 or 2 sessions, and you can see the difference between the script and this shell type of command and its output, right? Okay, so this was for those of you who don't want to work in ID, Jupyter Notebook, or PyCharm, right? So, okay, so those of you who have installed this Jupyter, go to your CMD, then type in your after your username, type your Jupyter Notebook, Jupyter space notebook, all in small letters, okay, and enter. This window will pop up, and you can start. You can generate a folder in here. Okay, so first you need to do one thing. Whenever you want to start writing or working on a project, you need to first open a new folder. So that you can do from here in new, right? Go to your right corner, and you can see that there are 3 or 4 options to generate. Okay, so first say in this folder Python programs, I want to generate a new file with of Python, right? So that will be created from that new. So a new file has been generated in here. So the title of the file will be in here, untitled. Okay, so the first line of code will be in here, and the other background will be same. Okay, so you see that here Python 3 type of file has been generated. Okay, those of you, okay, nobody is working on Python 2, so otherwise there will be a Python 2 in the right corner. And when I move back to the Python programs folder, you can see that one file has been generated with the name of untitled.ipynb. So the ipynb is the extension of these Jupyter Notebook file. So it will be common for all the files, Jupyter Notebook files. Okay, and then the title that you can change from here also. Okay, once it's the file is already running in here, so it will be shown as green. Once you close the file, you will see that the color will be gone of the file, so it means that the file is closed. So once the file is closed, then and then you can rename it. So there will be some options here. You want to duplicate the file, rename the file, move the file, download the file, and view the file, right? So these are the other options. You will see how to work on it. So for now we are working on this untitled file. Okay, so we want to generate it as, say, one. Click on rename. So the file name will be in here, the last checkpoint. you have to make sure that you save the code time after time. So once the checkpoint gets older, what happens is that if the something happens and the file is closed, then your new changes after the last checkpoint will not be saved, right? So you have to make sure that once after a few lines of code, you save the uh, save the file, right? So the checkpoint will be updated on that. Okay, so in here, okay, so once I have written the code, you need to go to run and click on that. The output will be here, right? Similarly, okay, so the similar output is here, as we saw in the Jupyter sorry, idle shell and the script file, right? But it is more, it's good to see the output below you, just below your input, right? So you know that what line of command is giving you what type of output. Okay, so has anyone has any doubt up till this, how to save a file or something? So whatever we have done till now.
Say yes and no in the chat box. If you have a doubt or if you don't have a doubt, write in the chat box.
Okay, so we can move on, right? Okay. Okay, so we'll start with some basic commands, right? Whenever you want to print something, you need to just, you see that Python is a very simple language. So it's better to understand because the codes and commands are written in human language, right? It's not that difficult like C and C++, right? So for printing, you just need to print, then your parenthesis, then inverted commas. You can write here the single inverted comma and double inverted commas, okay? But you need to write it. So whenever you want to print something like character or strings, you need to do it in inverted commas, right? It may
I
be
think,
single.
Amit, we need to tell them what is character and string. Just give them a refresher.
Okay, so
I'll again take that later, but you tell them
yes.
because you're saying the words.
Okay, okay. So this is the line, right? We have seen that whenever we have generated a new line, say after okay, after 2 plus 3, you want to generate one line of command that you want to perform in between the 2 plus 3 and print. So okay, so for that you need to click on this plus sign, and then you'll see a new line of command is there, right? So okay, we were on string and string or characters, numeric type of data. These are the basic two types of data. You'll see that whenever you write something, uh, Jupyter notebook. So this kind of thing will be your string or character data type, and then numeric. For numeric, there will be only numbers, right? 1, 2, 1.357. These are the types of numeric type of data. So whenever you have to print or work on, just understand that whenever you need to tell the system that whatever Amit Jupyter notebook has written, it is not a numeric type of data, it is string, right? So if you don't define these inverted commas in here, that means that you are not telling the system that this whatever entries that I have written in here, that is a string type of data. I know that this is string type, right? So if you don't write the inverted commas between at the beginning and at the end of your entry, then the system will try to interpret it on its own, right? So say you want to print okay, I have not told the system or defined to the system that ASFDA this is string type of data, then it will try to interpret on its own and see that it will respond to you in a way that name as diff a is not defined, right? So whenever you know that this will be your string or character type of entry, then and then you have to justify you have to define that, right? Tell your system that this is your string or character type of data. So I know that welcome to Python is a string type of data, so that is why I have put commas at the beginning and at the end of the sentence. Okay, so just once you have written the command, click on run. It will run the Python welcome to Python, right? Okay, now 3 plus 5 basic calculator command is here, right? Click on that, it will give you your output. Okay, now whenever we want to ask the system, so see that there will be few commands that will give you a true or false kind of answer, right? Say in here I have written that 3 greater than 5, so there is nothing other than 3 greater than 5 mentioned in here. So this system will understand that you are asking it for, whether the 3 is greater than 5 or not. So obviously it's not greater than 5, so it's a false statement, so it will give you a false, right? If I write in here 1.5, then it will tell you that it's true, right? 3 is greater than 1.5. Okay, now next thing, uh, okay, now when you want to work with multiple multiple type of data types, right? So then say suppose I want to uh, Jupyter 35, right? So I have mixed two things. First one is my character type, and then 35. 35 is a number, right? But I have written it in the inverted commas. So just understand that whenever something, whatever is written between the inverted commas, it will be taken as string type. Okay. Now, what is the difference here? That you have type here as 3 plus 5 is then comma and then your 3 plus 5. So you need to understand that whenever you want to print something after a string, okay, so this is my string. After this I want to type answer of it, right? Okay, so comma 3 plus 5, so it will work in this manner. So 3 plus 5 is then colon and then inverted comma over comma 3 plus 5, so it will give you 8. Okay,
You can also tell them about slash, no, if you want to go to the next line, /n.
okay, so there is this is similar as in C plus. I guess there was one command in print. If you write /n, then a new line will be there after the inverted comma is over, right? So 3 plus 5 is colon, and then a new line is generated, and your data is written below in the new line, right? Now there is one thing also that you have to be careful about. Jupyter's notebook. Okay, so you want to print here that I have written in code in Jupyter's notebook, right? But when I run this, there will be an error in here. So you see that uh, it's showing that the error is showing in here before s, right? So inverted comma is ended here, so it is taken only this part as string and the rest is not defined. So the system gets confused that what this part is, right? But we know that the s apostrophe s is here is correct. Okay, so for that you need to do one thing. You have to put a slash, two slashes before and after the inverted comma, and then write it as, I guess, only one. Okay, not two, but only one comma, sorry, slash before this inverted comma. So it is written as normal, right? So the system understood that what you want to do was you want to put an apostrophe s in here. So it's right. The output is as per your command. Now, uh, the other option is that you can what you can do is you can change the as I've told you that you can either write the single inverted comma or double inverted commas, right? So if you put it here like this, so the inverted commas are at the beginning and at the end of the sentence, so it will run right. Okay, it will run perfectly right. So the system understood that the apostrophe was here. Okay, so similar way you can interchange both the values. Say you want to put something you wanted to type and the inverted commas was here, right? Jupyter notebook. Say you wanted to put focus on Jupyter, then you need to write that double inverted commas before and after the Jupyter. Okay, so in here, so I hope you got the point, right? Whenever you want to put the double inverted commas before and after any word, then you can do it in this fashion. Just you have to change the single inverted comma at the beginning and at the end of your sentence. Okay, so you have to be careful with this thing because it might get you into an error, right? So these are the three things you can play with whenever you want to type something, write something or print something. Okay. Now the next thing, that 3 plus 5 is okay, we have seen this. Now okay, we'll do this later on. First we want to know the data types, right? We were talking about the data types that you can ask the system. If I have given the value 500 and I am asking the system what type of data type is this, right? So the system will give you that it's an integer, right? So positive values and negative values both will be integers, so that the system understands it's fine, right? Now I have given the pi value. Okay. So the system that it's an float value, right? After that, there is one another data type, that is boolean. Boolean will be for true and false, right? We got the output as boolean in here. Whenever we are asking something to the system, it will give us an answer in true or false, a boolean data type, right? So when we ask the system what is the type of true, then it will give you a boolean. If we write here false, but make sure that you type capital, right? Otherwise it won't get you an answer. Now the next thing, we have put the string into inverted commas and we are asking the system what type of data type is, so it understands it's fine, right? Now okay, so this thing, when we are working with operators, right? greater than, less than, then not equal to. For equal to will be there, right? For not equal to, you need to put in this, what you call, exclamation mark before equal to, so that will give you a value like not equal to, right? So that is for not equal to. This is for equal to, less than.
All of you, all the students will send the photo of their screen, what they are doing right now, on the WhatsApp group.
Okay, so these are the operators we'll be generally working with. You can put here equal to also, if you want to place greater than and equal to, or greater than or equal to. Okay. So integer for 2. Okay. So up till this, we have seen the data types, what type of data is there, that we have written in parentheses. Okay. So after that, we'll go to converting the data type from one type to another, right? So 2.3, we know that it's a float value. So we want to, let's say we want to convert it into integer, so that we can do with int parenthesis, and then whatever value that you want to convert into integer. So once you run it, so you'll see that one interesting thing in here, whenever you say, we know that 3.9, if we round it off, then it will give us a 4 value, but we are not rounding it off in here. We just want to extract the integer value from the value we have put in here, right? So in 2.3, there are two integers and the float value is 0.3. So we are extracting the first only integer value. So that will give us, that will rightly give us the two value. In 3.9 also, there is only 3 is the integer. The 0.9 value is the float value. So it will be excluded from the output by the system, right? Okay. So this is the float to integer type operator. Then the float, you want to, let's say you want to convert a data type, numerical value into an float value, so that you can do from here float into parenthesis the value that you want to put, right? Now, okay. So okay, so you'll ask that if you know that 73 is a number, then why you put parentheses in here? Sorry, inverted commas, right? So you'll see that when we are working, we'll need to input something, right? So say something, a new variable has been generated and that has been written in string variable, right? You are extracting the data from a data set that is written in string, then you need to convert the input value into integer, right? So for that, so we'll see this in application when we'll encounter it, right? Till now, just understand that there will be some applications of this when you want to convert a number that is stored as a string data type in the system, but you want to work on it as a numerical value, right? So
Amit, I think you in the other Jupyter notebook you type it so that other students will be able to get sufficient time to do all this. So like integer and float you're doing. So just do it in the other notebook as well. So let them get some time, and we're not in a hurry.
yes, sir. So let's say we want to convert the integer type of data into integer, right? So that, and float, integer into float, so that will be say 345, we convert it into float value. Okay. Let's say So understand that whenever you will write something basic commands like multiplication, summation, so the system will do it on its own. You don't need to uh, justify that what you have written or define what you have written to the system as far as the basic operations, mathematical operations go along, right? So for that type of thing, just you can write the equation and it will be calculated as by the system automatically. So for 22 by 7, the pi value is given up to, yes, 3, 3, 12, and 15, 16 values, right? So there are 16 digits in here. So that this is how much accurate an answer you can get. Okay. So, okay. Same value.
I
Say,
think this is the default maximum length of
yes,
this.
sir.
I mean, this is default. I mean, if you want more, you can get more also, but there is no limit to it. In the latest version that they've done changes, there is no limit in Python.
Yes. Okay. So integer value of 22 by 7. Right. So these are the float and integer type of values. Okay. Now, so we have seen that okay, a string type of numeric variable you want to convert into integer, then it will give you just fine. Let's say want to convert a string type of variable into integer, that won't happen, right? Because the invalid literal for integer with base 10, something the numeric value should be in the base 10, right? So but the value is not a numeric value, this is a string type of characters are written all over here. So that's why the integer value will give you the integer command will give an error, right? Okay, so everybody can share their screens, I guess, what everybody has done, so that we can track either you guys are doing it or not.
I think 17, 16, 17 students have sent the screenshot. Maybe 20 by now. Not everyone has sent it.
So, sir, everybody is getting the output. So, anybody having any doubts or problem?
So write in the chat box if you have done whatever Amit has done today.
Anybody faced with any problem? Okay. If there are no doubts, just write no.
We can go ahead.
Okay. So, okay. The string similar to the integer, we can convert a numeric value into character type of data type, right? So say the integer is given in here and we want to convert it into a string type of data, then it can just do fine, right? So there won't be any problem like the other thing that we did in the integer, right? So for string, now there will be a problem in here because we have not defined the numeric variable, that the system know that if you have not attached the inverted commas, then it's a numeric value, right? But the new number should be there, right? But if you have not typed the inverted commas and the entries are not numbers, then the system will know. It won't be able to understand what the entries here, right? What the values are here. So for that, whenever you are typing, whether it is whether you know or do not know the character data type, you can safely put the inverted commas if it's not the number, right? Then it can convert the character data type into string type, right? Okay, so the numbers are there. Okay, we'll move on to the input command then. Okay, for input, so say what is your age. So the system will ask in a chat box type of thing that what is your age, and then you'll write 23, right? So till now the system know that there is 23 something, but it has not been stored in something, right? So the value that you have put in here, that has not been stored, that is why it is continuously running. So whenever you will see that whenever you are running some command, so beside the line there will be an asterisk sign if the program is still running there, right? So in here there was some problem. Okay, we have not put the first, the variable has not been defined to which we have assigned the value. Okay, so we need to stop that. Okay. Now say x is our variable and we want to put the variable value in there. Okay, now what is your age? I have typed that it's 20, it's 23 and place an enter. Okay, so when I ask for an what is the value of this variable, it will give us 23. But okay, so here two three things are here that we need to understand. That first one is here that whenever you are asking for an input from the user, you need to assign this value to an variable, to a variable, right? So this is the variable and it will be assigned the value whatever written in here or whatever the user sent to the system. Okay, so this is your value, the x is your variable and it has been assigned. Okay, now then you will call for x. So there are two ways that you can call a variable, and you can ask what the value of this variable is. So you can, the most simple one is just type the name of that variable and run it, so it will give you the answer or whatever the value the variable has been assigned, that will give you in here, right? Now the second way is you can print x. Okay, so we had seen that when we want to print the value, right? So there are can anybody tell me what the output of this command will be? You can type in your chat box. So here I have called for the value of x, right? I have written the print x, and in here I have written print and inverted commas x, right? So what will be the difference here? But why? Okay, everybody got that, understood, got that the output will be x, but anybody know why the value will be, the output will be x? Okay, Sailesh has written that here string. Okay, string. So here, okay, because it's string. Okay, okay, so all of you are right because it's a string. Whenever we write something in inverted commas, so the system understand that it doesn't matter what you have written in between this inverted commas. Whatever you have written, the system understands that you have put it as a string, right? So it will type whatever is written in between the inverted commas. But when we write without the inverted commas, it tries it self understands that you want to call for the value of that variable, right? So that is the difference between these two things. Okay, so if we run this, you will safely get an x. Okay. Now I want to call what the type of variable is here. Okay. So now anybody can tell why it is written as x. Okay, okay, just one thing, we'll get confused with our x. So a new variable has been defined, whatever your age is, right? Okay, so okay, so y has been defined the value of age, right?
Amit, we can do one more thing in that. Let's say if someone gives a input as 25.6, so
Yes.
y equal to int, then
Yes,
input
yeah.
what is it? So it will take integer only. So that also example you can give.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so here we have called for what type of variable is here, right? So anybody can answer me why it's showing an str, right? Now that we have changed the variable, you can see that the y has been given. The system has shown that the y variable is a string. Can anybody tell why is it this way? Okay. In, no, but in inverted commas, the system has given me it as inverted commas, right? I have not written something that can output me the y variable value as inverted commas value, right? Anybody? The input by default takes SR as arguments. Okay, default to type teacher. Okay, so how many of you have done something with the code thing? How many of you have done coding?
No, they will not tell that. They will not tell that.
Okay,
So
because unless you don't tell, I won't be able to, yeah, fixate my speed, right? Otherwise, I will.
I think say she's saying basic Tina Kumari. So I think we will assume that they wouldn't know. We'll have to tell them.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Because I mean, some people might have forgotten. They don't like coding and all.
Acha,
So
okay. Okay, so as the other guys said that, okay, so until and unless we don't define or specify that our input will be an integer, till then it will be as it will be accepted as this by the system as a string default. Yes, string is by default. Okay, for input type input command. Okay, so here the input command, integer command will be come in handy. Say you know that age will be generally taken in years, right? So you can what you can do is just justify here. Okay. So I have used the integer command in here, in between the parentheses, whatever the output will be here or whatever I have written, it will be converted into integers, right? So I have, okay, till now it's clear, right? So whatever is written in between the parentheses of the integer command, it will be converted into integer, whether it is a string variable or a right numeric type of data type, right? So okay, if you get the string variable in here, so it will be converted whether unless it is an actual character, right? So if the characters are here, in here, then it will give you an error. But say the numbers are in here stored as string type of variable, then it will convert it into integer. So I have written the integer. The code is here, right? So input is given. The system will ask for age. Okay, then enter. Now, if I call variable, it will be shown as okay. Type y1 is converted into integer, and we have specified, so it is an integer type of data type. Right now, okay, as the sir said, let's say we have asked for an age, and somebody has written 35.2. Okay, so it will give you an 30. Why is it? Anybody can tell?
Yes, I think you should be able to answer that.
Um, say generally, just a second. First, I'll show it with the float type of. Able to convert it into float type of variable, right? Earlier, what was happening that say I have written something. Let's say 30. What was your okay 35.2? This is also an float value, right? So, but it is able to convert it into integer type of um, data type, right? Integer type of data type. So whenever we are using that, so in here you'll see that some basic coding, or you can say backend coding will be there. That some rules are set there. Okay, so in input, the value will be stored as 35.2 string, I guess, but it won't be converted into integer, right? So, say what you can do in here generally, then you can put a float value before and then convert it into an integer, right? So you'll see that there are some mathematics or coding interface between this float values, right? I don't even understand fully what comes under the float thing, right, in the coding part, because I am not also from the this coding background, right? So as far as I understand, whenever you cannot uh, go through the direct answer, just manipulate the thing into your own understanding, right? So until okay, till now we understand that we can convert the input, float input, into float variable into a numeric, right? The input is given as string, and that string is converted via the float command into a numeric value. So we have converted the input into a numeric, right? Whether it is float or something, float or other thing, but then we have converted. We want an integer, right? Whatever way we get an integer, it's fine. Now we are getting our value, right? 35, no error is there. So you are getting your whatever your output you needed, right?
I think we can conclude for today if there's no doubt. I mean, we are reaching
Yes,
the
sir.
time.
Yes, sir. Right. Anybody has any doubt till now? So you can do these things on or your own, right? call for something via the input variable, input command, and transform it as per your requirement. Okay, so this can
All
be
of you should be doing practice on daily basis. At least spend half an hour to 1 hour daily, whatever we do. Okay, then you will be confident after 30 days. So if you have any suggestions and all, you can post it in the WhatsApp group. And we are concluding for today. Okay.